If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. The creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download that free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Disabled Guy podcast. I'm your host, the Disabled Guy. This episode, I wanted to talk to you about something a little different. I wanted to talk to you about an out-of-body experience that I once had, and also I want to talk to you about knowing your purpose. I think it all kind of goes together for me. Some people might not have to go through an out-of-body experience, but others, I think everybody should have a purpose in life. So let me start by telling you about my out-of-body experience. So in order to get there, I want to talk to you about myself and let you know how I got to my out-of-body experience. So I was hit by a car at the age of 5 years old. I was walking across the street with my sister, and I was behind her. And the car hit me, and my sister was safe. So during this time, I was up the street from a fire station. Now, the ambulance that was at the fire station was actually out on another call. So the ambulance that picked me up, it was actually at the fire station to gas up. So I think that's very interesting when you know that, hey, you have a purpose in life. Because, hey, I could easily been there, land there dead, and not, made it to the hospital. So the ambulance picked me up, took me to the hospital about maybe 5-10 minutes away. This is all taking place in D.C., I should let you know. So I get there, and like I said, at the hospital, it's only about 5 or 10 minutes away. So during that time, I went through 2 oxygen tanks before I even got to the hospital. So that should tell you how messed up I was, as far as the result from the car accident. Now, the beautiful thing about this that I want to say that I take from it, I remember nothing that day from being hit. I only remember prior as a kid, and after and a little bit. Well, let me say not a little bit, but after I would get up. But I remember being in a hospital, but I didn't remember any shock or pain or anything like that from getting hit by the car. So I get to the hospital, and I'm unconscious and in a coma. So I remember when I was in a coma, I often think about the movie Ghost Dad, and I want to say Ghost, because those movies came out later, and I think about my life. So I remember this is all taking place. I'm in a coma, laying in a hospital bed. I'm not sure what floor I'm on, but I know I'm upstairs. I remember myself floating outside of the hospital bed. I'm not sure if it was a day or 2 or a couple days, but I remember seeing myself floating outside of my body. This is my out-of-body experience that I experienced. And I kept on seeing myself laying in that bed, and I'm like, dang. And I know people talk about seeing a light. It wasn't really the light I was seeing. I was just looking at myself out of my body like, dang. This kid had all his life ahead of him. Now I'm floating outside out of the hospital window, looking at my body laying in a bomb bed. So I feel that, God spoke to me. I didn't hear a voice. It was just a connection with God, like, hey, no, it's not your time to leave this earth. You have more to live for. So he told me to get back in my body and go live, and you have more time on this earth. So later on, a couple days or however long I was in a coma, I finally woke up. Now, I never told anybody this story because I think people might think it's hocus pocus or whatever, but I feel maybe this could help somebody. So I think, that was just a blessing of, interacting with God even before I knew really who God was. Because like I said, I was 5 years old, so I didn't know nothing about what was going on. I didn't know that, I didn't know about, that's God, being I wasn't raised in a church or anything. So I spent a year in the hospital just learning how to do everything over again. When I say learning everything, I mean learning how to walk, baby steps, one day at a time. I went to a hospital in Delaware, and they had me learn how to feed myself, learn how to do everything over, learn how to get dressed, and just basic things that we all take for granted in life. So, that was a challenge because most people give up on, that and stuff. So I spent a year in Wilmington, Delaware. Well, let me say I spent 9 months in Wilmington, Delaware in the Alfred I. DuPont Institute. I think that's important that we should know, especially going through this crisis with this coronavirus. Nurses are awesome. Doctors get all the credit, but nurses are the ones that do all the work. They helped me get back on my feet. They lift me up out of my chair when my parents couldn't be there. They were just so loving. They did their job. They brought me food in there. And like I said, I was 5, so I guess it was a connection they had with a little kid. Like, hey, we need to do our job, but we also need to show some love for this guy. So, they took to me real good. Everybody on the floor always knew me and everything. So later on, like I said, I finally got released. Now, when I went to hospital, when I got released from the hospital, that wasn't the end of my story. Because I still wasn't really fully able to walk. I was able to walk with the assistance of a walker. And I remember myself going home. This was, I want to say 1986 or 87. I was living on Quincy Street in Washington, D.C. And the funny thing about it, I couldn't walk, but I always used the wall for assistance. So every day, I remember this one particular day, I was trying to walk around the wall. I would use the wall as like a cane or something, just for support. I would put my back on it. I would try to walk around the wall, and I would keep on falling and falling and falling. And my mother and aunt was in the other room, and they just kept on. They were talking, but they kept on having their eye on me. But for some reason, I had that, that courage in me, just keep on going, because that's something I wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to walk, without any assistance or just the bare minimum. So I finally did it, and I was so proud of myself. It was a big accomplishment and a big goal to me. It was like, just imagine you seeing your newborn or your little baby that it's maybe 9 months take their first step. That's how it felt for me. Because like I said, I came from a place to where I was walking before I got hit, into a place where I couldn't walk at all. So that was a big goal and accomplishment for me. So later on in life, I'm just going to go ahead and go forward to, knowing my purpose and finding my purpose in life. So I think we kind of got different purposes in life. And I think my purpose came from actually being hit by a car. I learned a lot from being hit by the car. I learned that you shouldn't take things for granted. For one thing, and two, I feel that, hey, you can make your life a blessing from a tragic situation. So I remember me being in college. I went to Eastern Shore first, and I met a lot of great people there. I met some awesome people. I mean, people that I'm still friends with 20 years later. And let me dig a little deeper into details about that experience. So I went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. So there, it might have been like only 4 or 5 people on campus that actually, had a noticeable physical disability. Now, there are all types of disabilities, some seen and unseen. But as far as me, it was only a few that had a noticeable disability there. So that was like, I wouldn't say a culture shock, but I remember going back to high school and even elementary. So elementary, when I got out of the hospital, I went to a school that was primarily for people with disabilities. Not primarily, but everybody there had a disability. So that was different for me. Being that I came from elementary school that, very few had disability, if any at all. Because you got to look back then it was in the mid-'80s. So then schools weren't accessible like they are today. Back in the early 80s. And even prior to then. So that school that I went to in the mid-'80s allowed me the opportunity to get academics as well as physical and occupational therapy. So, spent a little forward. I stayed there for 9 years. I was scattered. And actually went to Theodore Roosevelt High School across the street. So that was a satellite program. So when I got there, some of my friends had already been mainstream to that school and into other classes. But we still had the buddy system where the coordinator of the satellite program, she would buddy us up with a person that had a disability so we wouldn't be in the classroom by ourselves. Now, unfortunately, the people that I went was buddy up with, kind of, I want to say they dropped out of high school. So after 9th grade year, I pretty much in all my classes alone. I might have took 1 or 2 with other, students in a wheelchair that I knew already. But most of my classes, everybody was, I was the baby of the group. So it might have been maybe about 22 of us that was there with disabilities. But I was the youngest of the group of the whole pack. But with that said, it still was good because we had a resource room. So I could always see them do the day, during out the day. And, you still felt empowered by being around them and not scared or nervous, because, they was going to do the same thing together. So when I got to college at Eastern Shore, it was like, wow, this is different. Now, Eastern Shore is maybe about 2.5 hours away from Washington, D.C. So I had no parents there. I had no nurse. I was all there by myself. I had to do everything by myself. Wash my clothes, shower, everything. Remind myself to get up for class. Just a normal college student on campus. But one thing that I remember that stuck out to me was a friend that I'm still good friends with today. He said, "Hey, Bernie, how come you're one of the only people that actually go to class but still hang on the yard?" So I guess it was from my upbringing and just being around a lot of people in my family that, I didn't do everything that all kids did, but I had, a big family and I had friends. So going from high school, I kind of knew everybody. So it wasn't a thing of shyness. It was just a thing of, hey, I finally got a chance to get out there and let my wings come out and start flying. So other students, like I said, they would go to, class and go back to their dorm or go to the cafeteria to get food and back to their dorm. But they really didn't hang out and socialize with other people. And I tell people that all the time because most of the time we are our biggest, we are our worst enemy. A lot of people just want to, get to know you and talk to you. So once people got to know me, they might ask me a few questions. Hey, what happened to you? That kind of broke the ice, and after they got all the questions out of the way, I just became like one of the boys in the group. So I would hang out with them at night, go to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would game with them. I would actually pledge a fraternity on campus and everything. So it definitely was a blessing. And like I say, I'm a guy in a wheelchair with a tracheostomy in my throat. So it was a big thing for me. Now then, I didn't know my purpose right then or now, but I knew my purpose for going to that college that's where I gave my life to Christ at. I met some cool dudes that they said, hey, why don't you go with us to Bible study? You might meet a good one. There's some pretty women there. You might, come across something that you like. So as I began to go there, I noticed things started to switch and shift in my life. When I say switch, meaning it became less about women and more about the words that I was hearing. So that's one I would say of my purpose, as far as knowing and understanding you're here for a reason. So I stayed there for maybe 2 years, and then I transferred to Bowie State University. When I got to Bowie State, like I said, I had already pledged a fraternity at Eastern Shore. So when I got to this campus, I already had frat brothers there. But the difference was, I didn't have all the friends that I had at Eastern Shore. And the reason I say that, because I think you meet most of your friends during that freshman year when you first go to college, and it's different when you transfer into another college. Even though I had frat brothers already there, it wasn't the same thing as coming and with all new freshmen and knowing or meeting people that you don't know. So when I got there, this one is when I truly felt my purpose. So I'm in a fraternity. Again, I might be the only one that was on campus that had a noticeable disability. Maybe, no, my bad. I think I seen maybe 2 other people there with a noticeable disability. So I'm there and everything. And like I said, I'm in a fraternity. So automatically, you already know. You're like a jock on campus. Or, you're just popular being that. You especially if you wear your letters and people notice you, everybody knows you. And hey, once again, I'm the dude in a wheelchair, so you're gonna stand out. And like I said, I was living on campus even when I transferred back home to Bowie State. I was maybe like 15 minutes away from DC. So people noticed me, and I developed, friends from class or whatever. So I remember one instance, the elevator had broke in a building that I had a class in. So it was no problem for me, being that I knew people from class and I was in a fraternity. So people just say, "Hey, Bernie, you need some help to get down the steps or whatever." So they actually picked my wheelchair up and took me down the steps. So, but I didn't know during that time that it was another kid up there that was in a wheelchair that was stuck, and he actually used one of those voice machines where you type and it speaks for you. So the next day I went by the class, and a professor said, "Hey, I need to speak to you." She said, people know you on campus, and you have a big influence on the people. He said, everybody that's disabled don't have that like you have. And she said, it's important for you to make changes and help others that can't speak or that shy or scared to speak up. She said it was the guy, she mentioned the guy who was stuck upstairs and couldn't get down. She said you have to be the voice for other disabled people. So when she told me that, I actually went to the administration and other people on campus to tell them, I say, hey, something needs to be done. I got stuck upstairs, and I was able to get down when the elevator was broke, but other people wasn't able to get down. So I need you to help and either move all these classes downstairs for people with disabilities, or, put another elevator in a building. So when stuff happens like this, we're not just dependent on one elevator. So I came back the next week, and all classes that for people who had disabilities were on the first floor. So I think that was a blessing. So I think, one of my purposes in life is to help people with disabilities, speak up for them, be a voice for them. And not just people with disabilities, but people in general that might be scared, to spread, speak out and speak up. So later on, I went back to college for to get my master's degree and everything. And one thing I learned from going to grad school that had nothing to do from the actual class I was taking, my professor said something to us, and she said it directly, and I felt like she was speaking directly to me. I actually think she was speaking directly to me. She said, sometimes you don't find your purpose, but your purpose finds you. And that lets me lead into, where I'm at now, as far as life, as far as I'm an educator down here in the DC metropolitan area. So I work with people with who are in special ed. So let me circle back around and show you how your purpose can take place early in life. I was hit by a car at 5 years old. The school that I went to, my mother actually was already working there for people with disabilities. 39 years old as of today. So let's say maybe about 24 years later, you could say. I'm actually working in I'm working with students with disabilities right now. I work with all type of students, but I love working with people with disabilities, especially those that people don't want to deal with, the emotional disturbed, the hard to teach or whatever. So I think that's one of my purpose. I often say that, and I go back to what my professor said, sometimes you don't find your purpose, but your purpose finds you. And I say that to be saying this because even when I teach general ed classes, and I did that 3 years on a high school level, the thing I can say about that is I come in contact with people each and every day, from college employees to students that have never came in contact with somebody with a noticeable disability. Things are different today compared to early in life, but I still say that, a lot of people don't get the chance to meet people with disabilities. So I feel that's another purpose. My purpose is to open the eyes of people that don't get a chance to interact with people on a daily basis. Do you know how many people that I've met over the last, like I said, 25 years or so that, I've been able to open eyes. Some of my best friends that I've known now, the first person or first experience they have came in contact with a person with a disability was me. So that's, I feel my job is to open their eyes that, hey, yeah, I have a disability, but that doesn't define me or who I am. Because I have a daughter, I have an ex-wife. I've been dating and everything all throughout my adult life since I was 21. And like I said, I came out of college undergrad. I was in the government, federal government. Most people might stay there and say, hey, you got good benefits or everything. But I just didn't want to offer a job. I thought my purpose was bigger than that. I thought I had more to offer this world. And God has definitely been showing me this. I met some people from Al Gore to Willis McGahee to Flavor Flav to John Glenn, just to name a few people, all because of me getting hit in a being put in a wheelchair and having a trick. I often say that, hey, if I didn't get hit by a wheelchair, maybe I'll just be an average guy and people wouldn't notice me. But this wheelchair has shined light on me, cause people gonna scare. And one of my main philosophies or sayings that I come up with is, hey, stare at me and ask me questions, cause I can handle it. So you don't have to stare at the next person. Cause a lot of people can't handle the pressure of being scared of. Being stared at and looked upon, and they may feel that, hey, something is wrong with them or whatever. But I feel my purpose is to speak out to this group out here and just show that, hey, whether you have a disability or not, you have a purpose in life. And you got to figure out what that purpose is. So like going back to being an educator and everything, I've met so many people, I'd say after the first, 2 or 3 weeks of teaching class, people, the students especially, they get past the, hey, that guy in a wheelchair, look at him, to, hey, that's just my teacher right there. So, I came very far from where I was at in 1985 to knowing and understanding my purpose. And like I said, I met so many people. I came in contact with so many people. I'm able to help so many people by being in that situation. So I just say, hey, know your purpose and know your worth, and don't never think that God doesn't have his hands on you, because he does. That's coming to the conclusion of this episode of the Disabled Guy podcast. Again, I'm your host, the Disabled Guy. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you come back for another episode. Until then, I'll talk to you later.